Okay, now we are going to learn the next few designs for the Soundwave block. The next one is what I'm going to call the wave. And the wave can be done multiple different ways. It can be really close together and really far apart to get a different effect, as we talked about before. So what I've done is I have a blank piece of paper here and I created two lines that I'm going to work between. The wave works really well for borders or thin strips of fabric because we can actually fill it in between the two lines, and that's what we're going to do with our Soundwave block. So basically the wave is similar to the stipple. You're going to have lots of curves and you're just going to make a wave. So you're going to start on one end and then work in a wave and try and get as close as you can to your lines without touching them. Now I'm going to stop there. That's pretty equally spaced apart. You could make it really, really close together, or you could make it really far apart. How you do it is kind of just a preference issue on what you want to do. You could actually do it all, try all of these, medium, close, far, in one block, or you could just use one. It's up to you. That's the basic wave. And when you're actually quilting it, you just want to try really hard to get these points right here curved instead of pointy. So practice that. Practice making a very curved and just doing your wave. That's the basic wave. The next design we're going to use is just an organic line. And the reason I call it organic is because it's wavy and it's not straight. It's just organic. So this is also great for filling in strips of fabric or borders. You could actually quilt a whole entire quilt with organic lines, and it's beautiful. And you can do it with free motion quilting as opposed to using your walking foot. So what you're going to do is, remember when we're doing this, it's a continuous line. We're not going to pick up our pencil. So this is how you would do it. We're going to start over here. Let's just say right here is the bottom of our piece. And we are just going to start and do a wavy line. And when we get to the top, instead of picking up my pencil, I'm just going to do a straight line across and then come back down. Straight line across and then up. Straight line across and then down. And that is how I'm going to do the organic lines until you fill in your space. Those are the next two designs. So we have the basic stipple, the wave, and the organic line we're going to be using on the Soundwave block. Let's begin filling in our Soundwave block. Remember that these sections right here on the outside are our border, which are actually a bit bigger because we're going to cut them down later, but right now they're a bit bigger. In the diagram they're already shown cut down. And then you have your Soundwave here. So let's begin filling it in. I am going to use the wave design and the organic design on the colors, on my colors. And I'm going to just alternate them. So first let's just start with the wave. Where you're going to start, you're going to have to keep in mind quilting as you're drawing. So we want to think about that. I'm going to actually start my thread right here, and I'm going to begin with my design. And I'm just going to try and keep it as evenly spaced as I can. And when I get to the top of my color, I'm going to come across, and this is called travel stitching. I'm going to travel stitch on the seam, and then I'm going to travel stitch up this wave to the top so that I don't have to cut my thread or stop. And then I'm going to move on to my next design. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to do my organic wavy line. And then I'm going to come across, travel stitch on the seam, and then come back up, come across, travel stitch on my seam, and back down. Then I'm going to travel stitch on my seam all the way across the bottom and then do my wave. So I'm going to move on to the stipple. We're going to be using the stipple in the background color. And there is definition here. As you can see, this is all the background, the borders, and this is all background. And so we don't actually have to fill just each strip of background with the stipple. We can actually fill it as a whole and treat it as if it was all one piece. So I'm going to start in the bottom corner, and I'm going to work across, up, and then fill my background and then come back down. And I thought that ahead of time just because I don't want to get stuck anywhere. I want to continue going all in one stroke without having to stop. So I'm going to start in the corner and just go. And on our actual block, you are going to have the line of chalk that you drew, and we are going to actually stipple over that line on our border, and then later we will trim it up. And I'm going to do kind of a small tight stipple because this is a tiny block. So here's a situation where I have come down deep into a far section here of my wave, and in order to get back out and come back up, I am going to travel stitch a straight line on my seam, and then I'm going to come back out and continue my stipple. And that's how you kind of work around without getting stuck. And so here again, I'm going to come back down, and then I'm going to travel stitch a straight line on my seam and then continue with my stipple. Travel stitching will help you in a pinch. It's exactly how you get around when you're in tight spaces. And here it's going to be more of a wave because I'm going really far down, and I'm going to travel stitch up. For our Magnum block, we're going to venture out and try a couple more quilting designs that we didn't do in the sound wave. The two additional designs we're going to learn are Pebble Quilting, which is probably one of my favorite quilting designs, and the wide wave, or also you could call it the figure 8 quilting design. So let's learn those two designs first. Pebble quilting are basically circles that are touching each other that look basically like pebbles. Pebble quilting can be done in different scale, so large, small. You can use large and small together, or you could do all one scale. Try and keep your circles the same size. I like to play with the scale. I feel like it works really well when you're trying to fill a space because you never know if you're going to be in smaller or larger space. With pebble quilting, you are going to be doing a lot of travel stitching, and so you have to be careful because you can possibly break your thread if you stay in one spot or stitch too many times around a circle. Let's start. First, you're going to start with a circle, and then I normally go around the circle once or twice, and when you come back around, you're going to switch the direction and create another circle. And then you keep going and create another circle. And come back around. See how I'm travel stitching around the circle a couple of times? See, I've already finished that circle, but I'm going to come back around on the same circle, switch directions, and make another circle. And then I'm going to travel stitch and make another circle. And travel stitch and make another circle. And you're just going to keep doing this. And see how we have this open spot right here? I could travel stitch around this circle and then come in with a small pebble, travel stitch around, and then continue with another circle. And this is how you do pebbling, and you just do this over until you fill the whole space. You could do a really big circle, like let's do a real big one, and it doesn't have to be this perfect circle. You can have odd shapes, ovals, and I like to just kind of mix up my pebble quilting. So that's how you do pebble quilting. You're going to always attach, and you kind of have a figure 8 motion because you have to switch directions as you come around the circle. So you can practice that. We're going to be using it in a different scales, so don't worry about them being perfectly the same size. The next design is going to be a figure 8, or what I'm calling a wide wave. So this is going to be similar to the wave that we did earlier, but it's going to be fatter and more circular. So we're going to do a circle and then touch. So here's our fat circle 8. Just keep going. They kind of touch in the center. And this is another great design for filling in borders or strips like this, because you're working from one side to the other side of the line. So that is your figure 8. Now I want to show you, you can see how I got smaller as I was going. This is another example how you can use scale. So I started off really big and I got closer and closer together. You could do it all the same size, you could do it like this where you go smaller. It's up to you how you play with the scale. Those are the 2 designs we're going to be using. So let's go ahead and fill in our Magnum block. Here I already have mine that I did fill in. In my first piece of color, I'm going to be using Pebble Quilting, and I'm going to start off larger in the wider section and get smaller in the thinner, more narrow section. I'm going to also use the figure 8, the wide wave, and I'm going to use a very narrow wave that we already used. I'm also going to repeat the Pebble Quilting, but this time I'm going to use the same size circles, and I'm just going to go down the line. Then I'm going to use some organic line quilting, and then I'm going to fill the whole background with stipple again. So go ahead and start filling in your block. You can do these designs wherever you want. The Pebble quilting works great in small spaces, large spaces. It's really up to you where you put it. And I'm going to continue filling in my block. And you can do this as many times as you need to, just so you have some basic idea of what you're planning on putting in each section of your block. Before you quilt it.